Hey there guys, this is Obsidian Chill. Got another video for today. And we had a recent release from EG7. They had their Capital Markets Day about a week ago. If you aren't aware, EG7 is the company that bought out Daybreak and then by de facto Dimensional Link, because Dimensional Link Studio is under Daybreak. So it gives us kind of an insight in terms of what the expectations are and kind of performance and everything from DC Universe Online. It basically gives us more of like a in-depth look at the numbers. So with that presentation in mind, we'll take a few kind of takeaways from that. So they kind of had their franchise pipeline plan in terms of, this is not just DC, this is the entire company in terms of what they're working on in terms of Daybreak and the other companies they own. So they have a new MechWarrior game being announced. Cold Iron is a studio that's working on a game. I believe it's an Aliens related one, probably some others in one as well. Focus on H1Z1. Another focus on MechWarrior and EverQuest, and then Cold Iron as well. So where does that leave DC Universe Online? So they kind of gave some insight to that as well. So the reprioritization of business to support growth. We can kind of listen to what they said there as well in the actual presentation, which we can listen to here. So see, this is coming from G. Ham, which is the acting CEO of EG7 and acting CEO of Daybreak.
Existing live games will be maintained with investments necessary. We're not pulling money out, okay? We're going to invest as necessary to continue to prolong. Like EverQuest will be here like a decade later, and I would not be surprised if it's still where it is today. And we want to make sure that that continues to be. But when I say no major investment, what I talked about earlier, like we're not going to remaster like DC Universe Online. We stepped away from that idea. Service business will become support. Okay, we don't think service business is what's going to take us to our future. Okay.
So essentially, that breakdown, what it actually entails or means, is that they're obviously still going to continue DC and support DC with the necessary investment. So for episodes, for every kind of release, but there's no major investments. It's not like they're dumping in millions of dollars to remaster the game on a new engine, which we kind of expected anyway. Anything that's basically outside of the norm is something that most likely we don't expect going forward. That's something that's not. They're basically keeping DC alive because of the in a moment I'll show you the gross revenue that DC brings in and its fluctuations. So basically it's kind of par for the course or the norm that we can expect going forward, but nothing major in terms of. So this obviously has no impact on like the PS5 graphics and Xbox Series X and everything that's going to be released. I mean, that was on the table for quite some time ago, a number of quarters. That just basically got delayed. So I mean, I wouldn't consider that a major investment. That's just basically like a graphics upgrade. Major investments would be like redesigning the game for a brand new engine release. That's what major investments would be, or like completely foundationally changing the game. So that's what we don't expect going forward. So to touch more on the revenue aspect here, we'll jump back into their capital presentation.
Monthly gross revenue trend by game. So there's a lot of lines here. We didn't put any numbers here because we do believe that that's a little sensitive as disclosing all that information. But the bar in the back is meant to be the total consolidated gross revenue per month, and then the line charts are with the the x-axis on the left figures meant to be the gross revenue by game. So a couple of things that should jump out here. When you look at the total gross revenue trend, where we are today versus where we were before the pandemic, it's largely consistent. So we've been able to maintain it quite strongly, even though it's been on a downward trend since the pandemic peak, but nonetheless still higher than where we were in 2019. But with that said, the top line chart right there with a high volatility, that's DC Universe Online. So DC Universe Online is the biggest game that Daybreak currently operates because it's on multiple platforms. But it's also the most volatile. And of all the games that we have, that is the most casual among the bunch. So more casual games tend to be more volatile. You see a lot more inflow of new players coming in, but they're not as sticky either. Whereas EverQuest, you see it's difficult to see here, but you'll see that EverQuest numbers actually have gone up, because it's super sticky, core audience that's not going anywhere. We continue to push out great content, and they're sticking with us. And we expect 25 to be even a better year as we celebrate, or I'm sorry, next year to be a better year as we celebrate our 25th anniversary for EverQuest. But it is variable. But among the portfolio of games that we have, 2 games that were most, I would say, negatively impacted with declines are DC Universe Online and Planetside. The other games that we have are highly, highly stable, and we continue to maintain great profitability. And then MAU trends by game, this will largely reflect the same as what we just saw. So when you look at the total MAU, once again, comparing it to pre-pandemic to where we are, it's largely flat. And then you see the DC Universe Online MAU, the one that's declined the most, along with the Planetside 2 and the rest of.
Okay, so let's break down kind of what that means in terms of at least the gross revenue. So kind of go a quick and dirty chart here. So in terms of the, like you said before, the total kind of gross monthly revenue would be the orange bar, and then we have the line chart here in terms of giving us that volatility. So the takeaway from that is that they consider DC, like I said, that casual game where it picks up a lot of new players, but there's not much retention, or there's much lower retention on DC Universe Line compared to other games, which I mean, we can kind of see as well. People kind of, play the game when there's new content to be released or something to do, and then they jump off the game and do something else and don't spend money because, DC Universe Line has been around for, 12 years at this point. So there's either veteran players that stick around, other players, the only retention they have is when there's something new to release, which this kind of breakdown shows here as well. So this starts at January 2020 and kind of goes up until June 2023. So we can kind of see here, hope you guys can see okay. I can attach this as well, so if you want to kind of go for your own preference as well. But we can kind of see here, so we can jump in 2020. We can see that we have the spring sale with the smaller Nintendo Switch release, time capsule. That's where it kind of bottoms out. And then right here, when we have the release, this is right around the beginning of the pandemic, or when it kind of really started to pick up. And that was the Birds of Prey episode. So Birds of Prey really saw that spike. A lot more players were obviously home with pandemic, nothing to do, school shut down, whatever. But they had a lot more playtime, and that's where all the investments came from. So April to May, we had the Resurgence capsule, so it continues to peak off. And then after that, it dipped a little bit because we had for June, July, pretty much we had no releases, no sales, no releases. So we see that dip in that income because it's not enough to carry over from the new episode, because at that point it's already been out for a few months, and an episode just doesn't have that sort of retention anymore with DC. And then we have July, we can see the pickup here for that. Wonderverse came out in the summer sale. And then same thing, we really dip here in August and September because once again, no sales, no releases. So it ties into that retention point where, if there's something, they call it sticky, I guess, but when there's nothing to do on DC, that's when players don't spend money, leave to other games, and then come back to DC later. So here, October, we're starting to pick up again slowly again. So we see the Double Times Arts. We have the Long Live the Legion released in November 2020. Beginning in December, we see the rise there from the episode. We have the Booster Bundle Winter Sale that kind of peaked there in December. And then this next spike here in the new year, we have the Sierra Skip and the anniversary event. And then we have the Mega Resurgence capsule again. And then unfortunately, we see that dip again, bringing us all the way. So the interesting thing here is that the major spike, if not the biggest spike, so we had the first huge spike, which was Birds of Prey. And then the next huge spike we had, this was survival mode. So we had time capsule, we had double artifacts, and survival mode came out in March 2021, and that's where this rises here. And after that starts a dip. So after survival mode, we had World of Flashpoint, which in my personal opinion wasn't the most well received, especially at the beginning. Then we had the spring sale, nothing really to keep that retention. Then we had the summer sale. That's also, we can see a little dip. June 2021 is when they removed all the episodes for sale. So before you could purchase episodes that you wanted on the marketplace. They took away that ability because obviously they're going to turn to free. So obviously there's going to be a little revenue dip from that because then players no longer purchase episodes if they were. And then another time capsule. Same thing. We kind of continue along here, same booster bundle. So really, if we're looking at the game's revenue compared to what it was in the past, obviously the high points was that 2020 when that 2021. Other than that, we've really seen it in a dip, which can be for a number of factors. Because I mean, we're still seeing the episodes. We're still seeing like House of Legends. Obviously, there's a big lull around here in content. Also, kind of like right in between here, between 2021 and 2022, we kind of had that exodus of the developers. Between either developers moving or new studios being created and developers leaving from there. So really here is kind of like that staff lull where they weren't able to do a lot of things because of that much less staff involved. And now here we're starting to pick up again in 2023. So far here we've had, the summer sale, time capsules, bonus artifacts and gifts. That's where they changed out of the Gemini here, that boost. We had the Shock to the System release, which was well received. So 2023 certainly trending upwards, which is also good because we also know we have, all those graphical upgrades coming in December. We have obviously the episode coming up in October. We have confirmation that the development team is increasing in size with the art team being more interactive. So certainly the outlook is better here in terms of overall performance. We're still we're still trending downwards. 2023, as you can see, the income levels or gross income is much lower than what it was in 2020 and 2021 and pretty much 2022, besides a few outlier months when there's pretty much nothing to do, just like a booster bundle and a seasonal to kind of tide that over. So it's certainly be better for the health of the game. They kind of keep this trending upwards to get the gross revenue back to what it was in those previous years, because obviously that means the potential for more investment. Obviously, we know there's not going to be any major investments as they previously confirmed. But that doesn't mean that there still can't be enough assets, especially with the introduction of the new executive producer, which I mentioned in that previous video. So there's certainly, the more we see the game trending upwards is the more general overall health for the game. And then we can try to get more outside just of like, a seasonal, an episode, a booster bundle, time capsule, like something different in terms of maybe like the weapons pass or obviously not a new power set, but the weapons pass, balancing requests, different types of content releases, stuff like that. So the more general trending upwards, the better, obviously. So that's what we kind of look at here, kind of the quick and dirty breakdown of what the revenue they kind of outlined. Obviously, if you've been playing the game for a while, you see the player dip in population and everything else. So it makes sense that there's so much volatility with DC compared to their other games. I mean, I haven't played EverQuest or EverQuest 2 or Lord of the Rings Online or Magic the Gathering or PlanetSide 2. I've never touched any of those games. But obviously, at least from the DC standpoint, you can kind of see the indication of the population decline or how active the game is to kind of tie in with this gross revenue. And then obviously there's going to be those increases when the certain like time capsules and booster bundles and etc. comes out, or spikes when episodes comes out. So we can kind of understand where the trends are, but at least now hopefully we're trending upwards just to give us for that better overall health of the DC, and hopefully we get some asked for changes in the future. So once again, I'll put the link to the if you want to see the whole presentation, it's unlisted on their channel, but I can put the link in here in the description, as well as this chart as well, just in case if you're curious in terms of that breakdown. So once again, guys, take care, and we'll see you in the next video.